Hello, everybody. Come on in, grab a seat, grab a seat. My name is Ryan Deutsch. I am Chief Customer Officer at Bluecore. I am so excited to be back at eTail. We had a great time here last year, and it's amazing to be back. I work with Bluecore. As I said, we are an identification and customer movement technology. Many of you are familiar with us. Those that aren't, it's fairly simple. We help brands identify site visitors and then create messages and communications to those visitors that drive conversion, repeat purchase, and ideally lifetime value. So I have been doing this digital marketing thing since about 1999, not to date myself, and sometime in the 2010s, while I was working at Sears running CRM, I met my co-presenter, the much better looking, the much smarter, and the much less bald Ryan Hofmann from Forever 21. Can we welcome Ryan to the stage? Come on. Let's hear it for Ryan.
Seriously?
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 Did you do this on purpose?
You coordinated this?
I didn't. I kind of feel like there's a twins vibe going on here, and I'm worried I might be the Danny DeVito in the group. Does anybody else?
Concur, Danny?
Been feeling, yeah.
Danny?
You guys are all feeling it. All right. Well, listen, Ryan, it's so good to have you. I have not told this story about Ryan very often, but it is 100% true. Ryan was, when we met when I was at Sears, you were the head strategist for Oracle working with our business, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so the head strategist. It is 100% true that Ryan single-handedly destroyed the brand with the recommendations and strategies.
It's true. I was the key strategist behind the store closings automations that we built for the.
Yeah, that's not funny. Okay, no more Sears jokes. No more Sears jokes during this entire presentation. So Ryan and I are going to talk a little bit about something that Ryan's coined as the 4 Ps, which we'll get to in just a second. Before we do, I just want to call out to everyone. We actually want audience participation during the session. We want questions. If you hear anything that you think is BS, you should challenge it as long as Ryan said it and not me. And if you do, we will pay you because that's what we do today. We pay for everything. Ryan has been kind enough to allow us to bring these Forever 21 gift cards with us.
Shameless plug.
Say again?
Shameless plug.
Where do you work?
Forever 21.
Forever 21 gift cards with us. So raise your hand. A mic will come to you along with the gift card. You can ask a question. And please, again, only ask hard questions to Ryan. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about what you do at F21.
Yeah, so Ryan Hofmann, Forever 21. I'm responsible for customer acquisition and retention. My official title says VP of CRM and Channel Marketing. We'll talk a little bit about the difference between what I just said in terms of what I said about retention and acquisition versus channel marketing in just a second. I've been at Forever 21 for coming on 2 years now, 17 years in the digital e-commerce and marketing space, and I'm glad to be with you all.
Yeah, very nice. So what are we talking about today, Ryan?
So today, like Ryan alluded to, we're going to talk about doing more with less. How many out there in the audience have been tasked with doing more with less? I don't see all those hands out there.
Yeah,
right.
So people are, wake up, we're asking questions now.
Right, every one of us is being asked to do more with less, and what we're going to talk about is the framework to help you do more with less. It's a framework I call the 4 Ps. I didn't name it that, it's what it is. But it isn't the 4 Ps that you learned in business school with Boston Consulting Group. These are the 4 Ps that actually matter. We're talking about priorities, processes, platforms, and people. And really excited to talk first and foremost about the most important one of these, which is priorities.
So when we think about priorities and setting the priorities from a retail perspective, we're going to go ahead and say the customer is the most important priority and putting the customer first. Now, I've had some experience working in retail, and I think that generally speaking, we wake up every morning to an email that tells us about yesterday's performance versus prior year, yesterday's performance versus yesterday prior year by channel, affiliates, paid social, email, SMS, etc. And our day ends up being all about chasing prior year's performance, whether it's chasing prior year's promotions, whether it's chasing prior year's traffic. And I don't feel like any of that's customer first, any of that's customer centric. So Ryan, if you think about moving from, even though you head channels at Forever 21, if you think about moving from channels to customer, how do you do it? Like, how do you get in front of the albatross that is most of our daily lives?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, the real key is to break marketing down into its two basic components, right? So marketing is two things, and that's it. And I think the complications come in between these, but it's really just about audiences and messaging. And when you think about marketing in that context or framework, now you're focused on the audience, on the customer, right? I can either take that audience and find the right message to send to that audience, or sometimes I start with a message and I gotta go find the right customer audience to send that message to. All the complications, all the channel BS comes right in the middle of that. But if you always remember and keep in mind, what we're doing here can just be boiled down to these two things. It allows you to have a focus more on exactly who that customer is and what message I want to get in front of them.
So what has to change? So if the priority is the customer and you boil it down to audiences and messages, like what has to change in your day-to-day life? What do you present to the organization to say it's working, it's not working? What has to exist to drive the change?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you mentioned the daily report. Sometimes if you live the life, it's hourly reports, which is even worse in terms of the frequency of getting those metrics. But you have to look at the metrics, right? Like the metrics is where you need to change first and foremost, right? Getting away from the channel KPIs of opens and clicks and impressions and spend and ROAS to really how many new customers am I driving? What's my new customer percentage mix? What's my retention rate? How many one and done customers do I have versus those that are making their second, third, fourth, fifth purchase, right? Moving them down in that experience with us. And when you think about those metrics, getting that baked into the organization and transitioning that is key.
Yeah, so one and done, is that a problem for anybody here? What percentage do you usually say you figure exists?
In my history, it's like 2/3 of your customer base is one and dones. Anyone willing to admit that 2/3 of their customer base is one and done shoppers?
Anyone?
I saw a hand back
Where'd
there,
you see a
back
hand?
left.
Right there. Give that poor bastard two gift cards. See how easy it is? Just admit your faults and you get more money. So it's interesting. We've been talking a lot at Bluecore about something we call customer movement, which is the idea of watching those customer cohorts from new first-time purchase to second purchase to lapsed. And we've all done this. Like, who's here been in like the business since the catalog days? And yeah, well, right there. Give this gentleman at least one Forever 21 card for being in the catalog business for so long. So we've all lived this, and we understand that this is important, but we don't tie our day-to-day, our actions and programs and time to specific things that change or move the customer. So at Bluecore, we've collected a set of data from hundreds of retailers and created an index, and we call it the Customer Movement Index, which has allowed us to build some benchmarks to basically try to understand what do leaders in retail look like versus laggards. And just to be clear, what I consider a leader, I am a retailer, I am profitable, and I am growing with velocity, versus a laggard where I am a retailer, I am not growing, and I'm struggling from a profit perspective. And we see two things in the data, Ryan, that you were mentioning. First, the retention rate for leaders is at least 2x what the retention rate is for the laggards, at least. In some cases, bigger, depending if you look at 2-year or 3-year, what we call survivorship. And so the number that you see up there, which is very, very enlightening to CFOs, when as a marketer you have to ask for more money, leaders retain 19 out of 100 customers 3 years after that customer relationship starts. Laggards retain 2.
I half the time wonder if it's even 2. I'm kind of rounding down to 0 on that one.
What, are you challenging our data? This is a public forum. You're not supposed to do that in public.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. But yeah, so the data's right. Now, retention rate's is a lagging indicator, right? I can't wake up every morning and look at it. Purchase frequency is not. And what's interesting is if you look at purchase frequency, again, leaders are more than 2x better in frequency than the laggards are, which is actually something you can track and monitor on a fairly regular cadence. But Ryan, do you think that's happening in most retailers? Like, when you think about the time you spend at F21, how much am I driving purchase frequency because I know that drives retention versus did I comp total revenue from Acme channel yesterday?
Right, and that gets to the next P, which is all about changing your processes, right? So our priorities that we have are, if our priority is going to be the customer, we need to take a good, strong look at what are the processes in our organization that are actually going to support us transforming to be a customer-led organization. And a lot of people that's one of the things. You commit to this priority, but if you can't change your processes to support it, you won't get there. So first and foremost, getting those processes in line that are going to, again, like changing your metrics, changing your reporting, changing your cadence of reporting, getting everyone to think differently. It all involves these processes. And we all know we spend way too much time on promotions and promo calendaring and all the meetings that go into that part of our process, right? And I mean, again, raise of hands, how much of your time is spent planning promotions? 90%? Anyone? 90% back there in the back?
Yeah, they keep raising. Can someone give them cards? They've raised their hands like,
right.
All they want to do is go shopping at Forever 21. They don't even want to be here. They just
Thank
yeah, that's great.
But seriously, I mean, in many organizations, you're spending 90% of your time on things that are just happening once, right? This promotion that happened yesterday that we planned and it took all this time, you're spending so much time on that process.
Yeah, so this is a really popular graphic that we bring up at Bluecore when we talk about what's it look like to go from channel to customer. Because when you're talking about channels, it's very siloed. You're actually competing against your peers within your organization. When you talk about customers, it's like, how do we understand what that journey looks like? And what is the total number of automations we can put in place that are signal-driven, that we can set and forget, and that also impact retention and frequency of purchase, right? So each node that you see, we call this the globe, is a different point in the customer journey, and it is multi-channel. So whether that customer shows up on the site, whether you have a mobile address, whether they're in email, whether they're on social channels, all of those experiences can fire. So your time is spent capturing, identifying, and reacting to signals versus, hey, it was family and friends last week. We got to do family and friends again this week and hope we comp, which is a waste of time.
And when you've transformed your process around that, it transforms the organization. If you look at how much of your revenue is driven from listening and focusing in on the customer versus the promotions, you know, in my experience, again, like it's healthy to get about 50% of your revenue from triggered and transactional lifecycle automations that you're seeing from your customers, you know, listening to that data, listening to that intent, and working them through their first, second, third, fourth, fifth purchase versus promotions being 50%. But in a lot of organizations, again, you'll see promotional messaging and the like driving 90% of the total revenue.
Yeah, we have several customers that actually create an internal target on automations. So it's not just about revenue, purchase frequency, et cetera. It's about, hey, we know there's 176 that we can deploy. This year we're going to deploy 47 of them as an objective or goal. Okay, so we've talked about the first priority, which was?
Priorities.
What? Was it priorities? No. I'm looking for an answer. What was the first priority? Who knows? People, no, that's next. The first was priority, but what was the priority we said had to be first? Customer. Oh my God, I can't give you all a card. I feel terrible. All right, so then
randomly.
Right. So then we talked about process. What's next? What's next?
People.
Who said it? People.
People. All of you. Everyone take here. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Round of applause. You're all the people.
Without you, nothing happens, right? Like nothing in the organization is going to happen without people.
And yet, unless you're the bosses, then that's not who we're talking about. We're talking about the people that actually do the work.
We're talking about the people that actually work and get there.
Yeah, the working people. Clap for the working people.
So when you look at my team specifically, I have a very, very, very small team. We're responsible for CRM and paid media, again, the channels, right? Organic social, SEO, credit card marketing, right? I have a team of 10 that does all of that, and they're amazing and fantastic, and my team is literally off the charts in terms of what they do for the company, in terms of getting stuff done. But when you look at the broader team that I engage with, right, I've got to take this small team and maximize and augment their capabilities. And so we have a much broader team at Forever 21, equally all as small at Forever 21. And that's where, again, I've still got to go outside of that and go to my software partners and agencies that can really augment my teams to help us actually get this stuff done. And again, achieve our priorities, become customer-led.
So it's interesting, I've worked with a bunch of retailers. So that openness, that mutual accountability, where you kind of expose your goals and objectives to partners and bring all of them together to help you achieve them, like that's not always common. Like many organizations keep things much tighter inside. Have you come across that, or?
You know, I've seen that throughout my career in various ways, and for me, that's not how I lead my organization. I believe in absolute transparency with my partners in terms of helping make sure they understand what are my priorities and how can they plug in and help us achieve them. When you're not, if you've got a partner that you're like, I could never share this information with them, they'll use it against me or whatever. If you don't trust your partner, you have the absolute wrong partner and you need to get a new partner in place, right? So you need to have that level of openness and commitment with them, because if you don't, you're going to achieve subpar results. You're just not they're not gonna be able to bring the ideas and fruit to bear that you need from the external organization to get more done with what you have.
Yeah, now we have to earn that as partners. So whether you're a partner to a retailer or a retailer in the room, everyone has to understand that we have to earn the trust to be an extension of a guy like Ryan's team. So this slide is not like the gratuitous, here are all my customers slide. What do you call it?
The NASCAR slide.
Yeah, this is not the NASCAR slide. Apparently that's what Ryan calls it when we present it. These are all the retailers that Bluecorians come from, because we intentionally hire to be able to support the retailers we work with, to earn the trust that Ryan puts in us as an extension of the team. So an important thing to think about people is not just your team, but more broadly. Okay, home stretch. Anybody have a question before we go into the home stretch? We've got 3 minutes and 51 seconds. That's what the thing says up here. No questions yet. Okay, what's the last P, Ryan?
Last P is platforms. And I have a lot of platforms at Forever 21, a lot of best-in-class solutions that help us reach our customers with the right messaging. If you look at my overall tech stack, the thing that is crucial about all of them is that the customer is at the center of that tech stack. I've got Bluecore, Amperity, Marketing Cloud, Narvar, Commerce Cloud, Attentive, Zambula. They all, 2 years ago, were very much independent of one another. It was very siloed. It was very channel-centric. It was very, let's call it disintegrated, if you will. And over the last 2 years, we've brought them all together, and they all, working in concert with one another, have now become integrated with one another. So if Attentive is sending an SMS message, I now have knowledge of that over here in Bluecore, in email. So the identification between someone taking an action on the site, again, it's all about the customer. It's all about being able to listen to and take action on all of those customer touch points. And if SMS is operating in a silo on its own and no other channel knows about or is aware of that customer interacting with that channel, that's a problem, right? Like, you're missing out on signals. You're not being customer centric. So the great thing about this is, again, all these partners have come together in integrating in such a way that we're able to now be much more customer centric than we've ever been in the past.
Yeah, this is a great call to action for all of you, since you have a day and a half or 2 days left at eTail. I remember last year, Ryan and I had breakfast here with Zambula. And Ryan, you had some great experience with the work they were doing on Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, and we talked about bringing it over to Bluecore. You want to share that? Yeah,
so Zambula is an amazing platform. They drive personalization in email, and I've implemented them twice, and like clockwork, it's like 10% lift. We're taking every message we send and turning it into a lifecycle customer touch point. And so again, we're doing that inside of promotional messaging. So the key was, great, let's make sure we bring that same experience to everything we're doing from a triggered and lifecycle touch point.
Yeah, so we work with a bunch of the other Spark brands, and Amperity is another great example, where Amperity has a ton of data for customer reach in the CDP. We actually have a ton of real-time behavioral data that we capture on site or in store. By combining the Amperity and Bluecore data sets, we're able to extend reach pretty materially for the business. So there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that might be out there just by bringing your partners together and creating that more integrated platform. I mean, it's not immaterial, right?
No, it's the tunes of millions of dollars in incremental revenue from our customers that otherwise we wouldn't have, right? Again, bringing everyone together has much bigger impact. It's, I hate low-hanging fruit, 1 + 1 = 3, right? Like all those cliches, but
making fun of me, Ian.
I am. But the reality is again, this is how you do more with less, right? You have to bring everyone together, and once you do, you'll actually see the true performance and the results in terms of both top-line revenue, but more importantly, new customers retained, and lifetime value.
Yeah, so listen, we've talked about Ryan's 4 Ps. Priorities, got to be the customer. We talked about process.
Got to adjust it.
Got to adjust it and simplify, focus on the customer. We talked about people, leverage the network.
The whole network.
And we talked about platforms. Integration, right?
Key partners.
If anybody is interested in truly taking the first step to be customer first, the data I showed you earlier, we're able to do customer movement assessments. We take up to 10 years of transactional data from brands. We put it in the system, and we show your brand how you compare to others that are similar retailers to you. So you can scan that code and go get an assessment with Bluecore. thank you so much. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. We really appreciate it. Have a great rest of eTail, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.